Hello and welcome to our second training session in our three-part series. Our second training session today is NDIS ECEI, how to complete a supported referral. This is an instructional demonstration for early childhood educators that may be assisting families to seek support for their child through early childhood, early intervention and NDIS support. Before we get started this afternoon, I would like to remind everybody that session is being recorded to protect the privacy of any children that might be in our vicinity. Please keep them off screen while session is being recorded. Welcome to our three learners this afternoon, Tegan, Olivia and Georgia. Great to have you on board. Well, because we're all here, we might get started. Okay, so to begin proceedings, I would like to acknowledge the country and the traditional custodians on the country on which we are meeting this afternoon. I acknowledge their continuing connection to land, sea and community. I am on Gunai country, Wominjinji. Hello. And I pay my respects to the elders, past, present and emerging. So my name is Kate Hanley and I'll be delivering this training session to you today. I hold the required early childhood qualifications and industry-specific experience to have completed the most up-to-date National Disability Insurance Scheme, or NDIS, agency training through the NDIA, which is the National Disability Insurance Agency. I'm also the parent of a child with a disability and I have lived experience of the benefit of engaging in early childhood, early intervention. My child is now 12 years old and went through the early childhood, early intervention prior to the NDIS coming on board, but most definitely still benefited from the supports offered through early childhood, early intervention, and through that experience has guided my professional focus as an early childhood teacher, and now both incorporating my passion for education, children, and supporting access and inclusion for all. Okay, so the objective of our learning today is to understand the ECEI approach for you to support a family to access early childhood, early intervention, and to develop the skills and confidence to complete an ECEI supported referral. The goals are that by the end of the session you should know how to complete an ECEI supported referral. You should strengthen your ability to support families that have concerns about their child's development and disability, and be provided with an educator's ECEI resource kit. And that has been emailed out to you prior to session. You have all of the documentation in that kit, including the supported referral electronic copy for you to use in your professional day-to-day work. Okay, there are some safety considerations that we need to be mindful of today. Given the fact we're meeting online, we don't necessarily need to adhere to the COVID safe parameters. However, it is worth noting that when we do meet in the classroom setting, that we need to maintain our COVID safe policies, procedures and protocols, and that includes wearing face masks and social distancing, and while we're moving around campus to ensure that we are checking in with the QR codes at the entry of every building and classroom. Okay, we don't necessarily need to worry about that so much today. We're meeting online, and as such, let's get comfortable. Make sure you are in a position where you are in an ergonomic seat and that you have all of the equipment around you to keep yourself comfortable throughout the session. Be prepared. Grab a notepad and a pen so that you can take notes. We have some consideration around confidentiality. It's a timely reminder that some of the content that we discuss in these sessions can draw your thoughts to a particular situation, or maybe a family or child that you're aware of. Just a timely reminder to adhere to all the confidentiality requirements that apply to us. So we cannot discuss any individual families or children. It is just a broad contextual training session. And also just be mindful that you might need to take a break, and that's perfectly okay. If you need to take a break during any time during the session, raise your hand up, click the icon at the top of the screen, or unmute yourself and let me know, and we can pause proceedings so that you can take a break. Okay. So there are some expectations to improve the strength of our online connection. During this session, please turn off your camera and switch your microphones onto mute, which you have all done. If you have any questions throughout the session, feel free to raise your hand, and that will signify to me that you have a question. Or, of course, you can always use the chat box to type in any questions as we go along. There will be opportunity for question and answer at the conclusion of the session. Just remember to turn on your camera and microphone before speaking. Okay, so what are the benefits? The benefit of knowing how to complete a supported referral is that you can support families to connect to the partner in the community to access early childhood, early intervention. You can assist to evaluate the eligibility of a family to meet criteria to access the NDIS. And if a child meets requirements to be access met, they will then receive help to develop a plan to submit through to the NDIS for ECEI support funding. So it's really beneficial. It's very much, in our first session, we spoke about the very first stages of accessing and how to contact ECEI. This is I guess, the second stage in perhaps supporting a family that might require a little bit more assistance in those initial contact phases. So the benefit for you to be able to understand how you can conduct a supported referral means that you are able to support a family, providing they give consent for you to do so. So why complete this form? The early childhood partner in the community will be the first point of contact for families of children aged 0 to 6 years with developmental delay and or disability that are seeking support through the NDIS. The early childhood partner will discuss with the families, the carers or guardians of the child, the most appropriate supports that would benefit their child. So it's a very individualised process. You can use this form to record information about the child that's aged 0 to 6 years that might have developmental delay or disability that a family is seeking support for through the NDIS. Excuse me. So completing this form might include providing information and referral to other support services and organisations. So there's opportunity for some collaboration in some parts of this form. Completing this form completing this form with the lens of understanding that every child is different. So the early childhood partner in the community will tailor the supports to the individual child and the family's individual needs and circumstances to best support the child. And the form enables the family to engage in early childhood early intervention and establish access requirements needed for NDIS funding. So again, it's really building that evidence around where to next for that family in terms of support. So there are 3 parts to the referral form. Part 1 is the general information. Part 2 is the information form, so including the mandatory consent section, which is a really important section. And part 3 is the important privacy information. Okay, so we will break all of those components down and make sure that you have a full understanding of what it all means. What you need to know. So today I'm going to provide you with the step-by-step process of how to complete an ECEI supported referral. We'll complete the early childhood partner information form together, and we'll record the parent, carer and guardian consent, and we'll show you how to submit the referral. You need to know how to attach any copies of relevant assessments, reports or letters from healthcare professionals if they're available that describe the child's needs and supports of the information where appropriate. Now, as we discussed in session number 1, that's not necessarily, it doesn't matter if that information is not there. It's just knowing how to complete that information if that's available to us. And you'll need to know how to send the completed information form and any attachments through to the ECEI partner. So it's very simple in terms of how to do that, but seeking some clarification around that is always important. Okay, let's get started. So there's a few things to identify initially. So first off, you have been emailed a Word document and PDF copy of this referral form. So make sure you save that in your professional toolkit. Furthermore, this is where you can actually find the form on the website. So if you type in www.linkhc.org.au and click under the Services tab, you will look under the NDIS Early Childhood Early Intervention component. Scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, and at the bottom of the page, just down here, you will find, right down here on the bottom of section here, you will find the download and complete referral form tab. So if you just click on that, it'll take you straight through to the referral form that you've already got a copy of. It's a really good idea also to familiarise yourself with the content on the website. There is some great resources and some helpful information for you as early childhood educators. So I encourage you to have a look at that as well. Okay, for the purposes of today, let's get started. Let's have a look at how to complete the form. Okay, so part 1 is the general information, and pages 1 and 2 of part 1 basically just have all of the general information about pretty much what we have just discussed. It's an overview of what the form is and what the general information around ECEI is, what the aim of ECEI is, and who can benefit from early childhood early intervention. This is really, I guess, a good opportunity for you to outline some of that information with families, and particularly when you're working in conjunction with the family. So you've provided them the rainbow postcard that we spoke about in session number 1. and perhaps they've identified that they're feeling a bit overwhelmed and really do require your support. So this is the next step in that level of support for a family. There's a section there, you'll see where the purple arrow points towards, you can see on your paper copies, that it gives the locations of where the partner in the community are, so the general local government areas. So that's also really helpful if particularly you work across regions. It gives you a good understanding, and it helps families to understand where the partner in the community, so Link Health and Community and La Trobe Community Health Services in Gippsland, are actually located. The form also outlines the types of supports that can be provided. So again, that's very reassuring for families to perhaps read that information, and a good opportunity for you to, again, provide that level of reassurance for a family. Okay, part 2. Right, part 2 is the largest component of the form, and we will go through it bit by bit. So pages 3 through to 11 are part 2 of the form, and this is the information gathering. So this is the component where we've gained consent to sit with the family and collect the information that the partner in the community is going to need to be able to determine where to next for the family and their child. So on page 3 and 4, it's about collecting information specific to the child. So you'll need the personal particulars of the child, including their name, their date of birth, their gender, their address and the living arrangements, whether the family and child identify as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, and what the citizenship status of the family is. As we discussed in our training session number 1, there are some residency requirements, and that needs to be outlined on the supported referral form. There's also a section where a family can record any other details of family members that might be listed as NDIS participants. That's a really helpful way of recording information, because when a family moves through and perhaps meets access to obtain NDIS funding, that's all accessed through their MyGov account and through a portal. So if there are numerous family members that are NDIS participants, that portal will, particularly if it's the parents that are overseeing those plans, they will have a number of sequential children listed on that portal with different funding and different plans attached. So record that information if it is applicable. Okay, are there any questions on that so far? No, all good? Okay. All right, so the next 2 pages are about collecting the parent or carer details. So again, it might just be one parent, it might be 2 parents, it might be carer, it could be kinship carer. There are lots of different structures of gathering this type of information, and recording as much of it as possible is really helpful. So again, the record, you need to record the details of the parent or carer's name, date of birth, the relationship to the child, their phone and phone number and email address, and their residential and postal address. Phone and email is really important to keep updated. So again, where perhaps there might be some vulnerabilities that you have identified within a family, or if a family are perhaps or a child is in kinship care, but it might only be short-term care, it's really important that that information potentially is listed on the form, and to give perhaps as many different contact details and numbers as possible, so that when the ECEI intake team are allocating the family or carer the ECEI coordinator, that the coordinator is able to make contact fairly easily. So the more contact details, the better. Also, to list the preferred contact method is a really important strategy. Some people do prefer to be just contacted via email and don't necessarily answer phone calls, particularly if they're from private or numbers that are not recognised. So if that's something that you, as the person conducting the supported referral, recognise about the family, maybe encourage them to really list down what their preferred method is. It just makes the process much, much easier for the intake team. And again, information such as whether their family identify as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, what their citizenship is, to record what their preferred language is, and whether there is an interpreter requirement needed for those initial forms of contact. The intake team can quite easily set up an interpreter service. So most definitely, if that's something that's identified, please make sure that you're recording as much information as possible in regards to that. The idea is that we are putting together all of the evidence to create a really great safety net and structure around the family and around the child to gather as much information as possible, as quickly as possible. Okay, again, moving forward. So we're looking at information gathering around any custody or court order details that the child or family might have active. So there's a spot there to record those. Further down, the details of a child's disability or developmental delay. So again, we're starting to peel back any information that is already recorded. Now, it's really important to recognise that there may not be information in regards to that just yet, and that's okay. It's okay to leave those sections blank, or it's okay to perhaps list under investigation. The idea is if the information is available, then you will record it. The details of the professional making the assessment or diagnosis. So again, perhaps if a child has perhaps engaged in some speech therapy, some private speech therapy, you would then make record of who that speech therapist was, and along with other sections around consent further on in the form, there'll be a section where perhaps the family give consent for the ECEI coordinator to contact that particular professional to gather further information. So the next page is your details. So this is the details of the person completing the form. So it's very straightforward. It's just gathering your contact details, and this is where it's important in terms of the family, ensuring that the family has given consent for you to act on their behalf. Are there any questions so far? I know that it's a lot of information, but it is most definitely very self-explanatory in terms of completing the information. I guess the idea is just to feel confident about the information that you perhaps can or cannot provide. The advice that I give is to ensure that the more information you provide, the better. However, if it's not available, it's not available, and that's okay. Okay, so again, going through, this section is listing the services and supports that the family may already be using. So again, this is where you're going to be holding that conversation with the family and really, I guess, engaging that and establishing where the family's at. So things like, who is their GP? Do they see a regular GP? Have they seen a paediatrician, or do they have a referral for a paediatrician? Or maybe not, and that's okay. Maternal child health nurse. So again, has the child had regular key age and stage visits with their maternal child health nurse? And if so, where is that located and what are the details around who that person is or where that clinic is? And any specialist or allied health or therapeutic supports that the child or family has engaged in. The next section down is to list any of the services that the child currently attends. So childcare, kindergarten, occasional care or playgroups. And again, just the contact details, so name and perhaps phone number of those services is really helpful because the partner in the community ECEI coordinator ECEI coordinator may need to contact these people to gain a better understanding of the child's circumstances. So again, that holistic view, as we know, in terms of our best practice standards within early childhood industry, it is family-centred focus. So we're really looking at the family first and then the child in their natural everyday environments. So that meaning their kindergartens, their childcares and all of the community settings that the child might be engaged in. It helps build that picture and to provide evidence of where the child's at. Okay, moving along to recording the details of the child's developmental delay. So again, some of these conversations can be quite overwhelming for families. So this is where you will draw on your expertise as an early childhood educator and perhaps reflecting on some of the observational techniques and requirements that you use in conjunction with your relationship with the child and family. And we will be looking at any of the red flag indicators for potential developmental delay. So that can be used in conjunction with the ECEI developmental milestones document that we're all familiar with, and working backwards through all of the key age and stage phases of development and looking at any of those red flag indicators. So in specific, we will be looking in regards to this form, recording any of the red flag indicators for developmental delay in regards to self-care, in regards to physical development, in regards to the child's communication, in regards to behaviour and relationships, and the child's cognitive ability. Then we would like the family to list, or for you to list, the family's concerns around what their area of concern might be, or what that identified area of developmental concern might be. And we're looking at the impacts of those concerns. So again, it doesn't need to be professional language. It's about the reality of the situation. So it's looking at what impact do the concerns of the family, when the family is sharing concerns about their child, what are the impacts of those concerns? So really capturing that information. So for example, that might be around speech delay, okay? And it might be around a family sharing their concerns that their child is not communicating as other children the same age are. It might be that they're seeing some flare-ups of behaviour around frustrations because of that diminished capacity for communication. and they might be sharing some concerns about, you know, the child's cognitive ability. And you will cross-reference a lot of that against your observations as early childhood educators to determine where that evidence might lie. Okay, so it's again really important that you're ensuring that you're gaining consent from the family prior to completing this section, often because that information is really personal to the family, and the idea is that you are attaining information that is evidence building. So making sure that there is consent to do that is incredibly important. Okay, and this section is, again, the idea that you would provide any attachments regarding potential assessments that the child might have undertaken or previously received. So the idea is that you would either just attach them digitally if the referral is being uploaded or emailed, you would attach them digitally and perhaps write what those particular details of each attachment are in this section. Or if you're posting it through, well then take a photocopy and attach it at this section. There's also opportunity for you to provide any additional information that you think might be relevant. So including any statements from teachers or educators, and early learning facilitators, and family members too. You know, there could be a statement from grandma regarding something that is important. So capturing that information is really important, and that's the opportunity to do that. Down the bottom, it also indicates that you can attach separate pages as well. So there's no capacity limit on that section. If you have the evidence, please attach it. Just a little tip on that section too. If the family and yourself are going to submit this form digitally, so via email, it's a really good idea to scan all of that paperwork through and have it nice and organised. So again, that could be something that you need to support the family to do, either by assisting them to do that through perhaps your service, or giving them some instruction on what they need to gather and how they need to get it through suitable to put all of the information together on this one form. Okay, so that was part 2. So I guess it's important, before we go on to part 3, it's important for you to ask any questions. I'll just go back. So are there any questions in regards to part 2? So again, all of that evidence gathering. Again, put your hand up, take your mic off mute, type it in the chat box any way possible. Okay, yeah, I've got one coming through. Yeah, okay, great. Thanks, Tegan. I've got a really good question here. So the question being asked is, with the, can you attach paediatrician reports? Okay, so the question here is, if a child is 3 years old and has paediatrician reports from an infant, is that still relevant to attach? Yes. So again, we're talking about early childhood. So we're talking about the 0 to 6 years, and all of that information from birth to 6 years is important. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily have to be relevant to that particular year or that particular time. Often those initial paediatric reports or information in those first 12 months can be really critical down the track. So most definitely, if there are reports that are over 12 months old, still include them. Yeah, great question. Any other questions? No? Okay. Okie dokie. All right, so part 3. So this is, again, information that you'll go through with the family, and it's based on privacy. So again, providing reassurance to the family that the information that they're sharing with you is held privately. So please read through this section carefully with the family. And if they have any questions, they can also call the 1-800-546-532 number. So I guess it's important to validate the family's concerns, but also provide them reassurance by you reading through this information with them, but also giving them an option to, I guess, supplement their supplement any concerns or questions they might have by calling through to the intake team, and they can ask a professional as well. Okay, so again here, this is where we're really looking at the consent. So unless this part of the form is signed, all of the rest of it becomes null and void. So this must be signed. So the parent and carer consent, the parent or carer must sign and date the document, and please ensure that their name is clearly printed below the signature. So that's something that's quite critical, actually. So you always get a scribble for a signature, but it must be validated by a clearly printed name. Down the bottom of that page is the submission details. So it gives the contact details for the partner in the community and the submission details, so whether that's via email or post. So again, you can fully complete the form, sign, date, and digitally upload it through the email or post it through. What I will say is the digitally uploaded method has about a 3-week turnaround. It's relatively quick from the moment that it's been received through to a family actually being allocated a coordinator, whereas the method of posting the information through can delay the process a little. So though it might not be suitable to digitally upload or use that method in some instances, where possible, that would be the preferred and recommended method. Okay. All right, any questions? Nope. Okay. Okay, so you've got mail. So a Microsoft Word version of the ECEI Supported Referral has been emailed to you. Yep. Yeah, gives a thumbs up if you've all received. Yeah, great. Okay, so to test your understanding, I would like you to complete the ECEI Supported Referral, and we have a hypothetical scenario, and the title of that scenario is Pippa. So we're going to go through that really quickly, and the idea of the benefit of this session and this training is that I will provide you feedback on your attempt at completing a supported referral. So the idea is that you get to do a hypothetical attempt for the safety of it not being real and you not having to, I guess, gather the evidence for the first time. And you can submit that through to me, and I will give you feedback on your attempt. Okay, so once you've completed it, send it through to the email listed, and I will provide you feedback. Okay, so let's take a look. So this is the scenario that you're going to complete your supported referral attempt. Okay, so using your own details, your own qualification, and your own early years workplace, or if you don't want to identify your early years workplace, you can just make one up for the purposes of this exercise, and complete the ECEI referral from the following scenario. Okay, so Nathan and Sally Brown have concerns about their 2.4-year-old daughter, Pippa, and Pippa's development. Pippa is not communicating like other children at her daycare centre. She has limited vocabulary and is difficult to understand. She seems to get frustrated, often lashing out to those around her, hitting and biting. Pippa avoids eye contact with others and becomes easily distressed in loud and busy environments. Does that sound familiar? Pippa finds great comfort in cuddling those she trusts and loves to flip the pages over and over repeatedly in her favourite, almost worn-out book. Pippa likes to chew her clothing, often soaking her sleeves with saliva, and is a very fussy eater, preferring the same types of food with very little variation. Sally, Pippa's mum, has recently seen the maternal child health nurse, who suggested that Pippa is displaying some red flags for developmental delay in several key milestone age and stages. Pippa's parents have come to you as they have heard about ECEI but feel overwhelmed at not knowing where to begin. They have asked if you will help them to they have asked if you will assist them to contact the partner in the community. Okay, so that's the scenario that you are going to have a go at completing. So I imagine it's a familiar scenario for those that, for all three of you working in the industry. Again, this is hypothetical. There's no right or wrong. It's about you attempting to draw on the information provided and complete the form. So again, when it comes to personal particulars and mobile phone numbers, just make that information up. It's not going anywhere. It's just the purposes of your confidence to be able to complete the form. Okay, again, when we're looking at identifying some of the areas of concern, the information has been provided in the scenario. And again, looking at potentially recording some information from services that they have engaged in. So again, the maternal child health nurse. So make up the information. It doesn't have to be a real maternal child health nurse, but it gives you the opportunity to be able to populate the particular section of the supported referral. Okay, are there any questions about that task? Great. Okay. All right. All right. I look forward to receiving those. Once you email them through, I will provide you feedback. Okay. So let's check your knowledge. So we have some Q&A opportunities here. Please, again, type in the chat box your responses, or if you would like to unmute yourself, please feel free to unmute your mic or turn on your camera and we can discuss the answers. Okay, first question. What is the benefit of knowing how to complete an ECEI supported referral? Okay, A, to support families to connect to the partner in the community, to access early childhood, early intervention, and B, to evaluate eligibility to meet criteria for access to the NDIS. C, if a child meets requirements to be access met, they will receive help to develop a plan to submit to the NDIS for support funding. Or D, all of the above. What do we think? If you answered D, all of the above, you would be correct. Great. Excellent. Okay, question number 2 is true or false. So is this statement true or false? You would use the ECEI support referral form to record information about a child aged 0 to 6 years with developmental delay or disability whose family is seeking support through the NDIS. Well done. Everybody has recorded true. Absolutely. This is an opportunity for a family to begin their journey to developing an NDIS plan. Not all families and not all children that go through this process will eventuate into an NDIS plan, but all children and all families will receive short-term supports and community linkages to be able to help their individual concerns and to lift the functioning capacity of the child. Okay, another true or false. The ECEI Supported Referral may be completed and submitted by a kindergarten teacher that has concerns about a child that attends her kinder. She has spoken to the parents and they are not, they do not share her concerns and they're not interested in seeking support from ECEI. Yeah, it's false. So that's right. Without consent, the ECEI Supported Referral cannot proceed. So even in a situation where a kinder teacher has identified red flags for developmental delay, and even where a kinder teacher has identified that ECEI would benefit a child's functioning capacity, if the family do not consent for that to go ahead or to take place, that cannot happen. It must always have the family's consent. So the kinder teacher has the benefit of being able to liaise with the preschool field officer and the Department of Education, and is obligated through her or his duty of care to identify and produce documentation regarding the evidence and regarding her observations or his observations of a child's progress and development. However, in terms of recommendations, that can be done through the transition reports. But if a family does not consent for ECEI referral, that's where it stops. So that's really important to understand that consent is everything. Okay, our final question. When completing the ECEI supported referral, you should A, tell the family that they need to get a referral from their GP before they can access ECEI. You should attach the copies of the assessment, report and observations that you have in the child's file at the daycare without telling the family. C, explain to the family that you know the child pretty well, so you will just complete the form and submit it on their behalf. Or D, none of the above. And I can see everybody has clicked D. Of course, none of the above. As we just discussed, consent is everything, and without consent without the integrity of us conducting ourselves according to our confidentiality and privacy obligations, we would be negligent if we were to proceed. So consent must always be applied to be able to progress through. Okay, well done everybody. Congratulations on your feedback for the Q&A, checking your knowledge. I look forward to receiving your completed ECEI referral form, and most definitely will provide you feedback in regards to your attempt for completion. Are there any questions? So again, please unmute or type in the chat box. More than happy to address any questions you might have. Okay, there's no due date. There's no due date or anything like that. This is simply training for your benefit. So what I would recommend is, while the information is fresh, it's always good to get on and get a task done while the information is fresh in your head. I have also included a copy of the PowerPoint with your resources that was emailed out. So if you'd like to go back over the PowerPoint, if there's anything you're not sure about, please feel free to do so, particularly in regards to the breakdown of the supported referral. Great. Any other questions? Okay. All right. So your feedback is incredibly valuable, and to assist in future planning and development to support educators' understanding and becoming confident to use ECEI materials and resources, I really encourage you to take a moment to complete and send back the emailed survey. So again, in your resource kit, you'll see that there was a survey. If you could take a few minutes to complete that and send it back through when you send through your scenario, that would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Great. Okay. Well, that brings us to the conclusion of training session number 2. Thank you very much for your questions, and thank you very much for your time this afternoon. As always, I will leave you with the message of what you do matters, but what you do, but why you do it, matters much more. As early childhood educators, everything you do matters greatly in the life of a child and their family, but why you do it matters much more. So your integrity and your passion and your engagement to each and every child is definitely makes an impact and is so valuable in the life of a child. I definitely encourage you to familiarise yourself with the supported referral form and process. And again, I would just like to reiterate that I'm always available for questions, so please feel free to contact me should you have any questions regarding early childhood, early intervention and the NDIS. Okay, my name is Kate Hanley and I thank you once again for your time. Okay, thanks. Bye.